As the country gradually gears towards commissioning its first ever nuclear power plant in 2037, various local players have been benchmarking with their international counterparts with an eye on incorporating nuclear electricity into the energy mix. But how vibrant are our relations and interactions with these international players? Today we seek the answers from the international perspective as we also try to find out how the rest of the nuclear world sees our progress as Kenya. On this episode, we are joined by the Nuclear Energy Agency Director General William Magood as we seek to understand how vibrant our partnerships are as a country with other entities and countries that have embraced nuclear technology. First things first, sir, what is the role of NAIR, that is the Nuclear Energy Agency, in the realization of the nuclear dream, especially here in the country?
Well, as a general matter, the purpose of the Nuclear Energy Agency is to work with countries around the world to share knowledge and experience with regard to the construction and operation and eventual decommissioning of nuclear power plants and all the science and technology and education associated with that. So I believe that the experience that we have had, which is captured in the range of reports and other documents that we make available around the world can be used by the people who are pursuing nuclear power in Kenya to make sure that they don't make the kinds of mistakes other countries have made with the large, costly construction projects, that they find the efficient way forward, and that most importantly, that they learn what we have learned about nuclear safety to make sure that as they implement nuclear safety, that they implement it in a way that assures the very, very highest levels of safety in the construction and operation of plants. And so we share that knowledge, which is based on the experience of the countries that have developed and used nuclear power the most.
The Nuclear Energy Agency has partnered with the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, that is NUPEA, here in the country, in the mentorship of young leaders in the nuclear sector and especially girls. Why is it important, sir, and why now?
Well, we started doing these international mentoring workshops about, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And we did it initially in Japan, because as you can imagine, in Japan, there's a very, very large gap of women in science and technology areas, particularly in leadership. And the Japanese government was very interested in addressing that. So we did this workshop to take a step towards correcting that, and discovered that we could use this mechanism around the world to improve not just the gender balance in countries, but really to promote education in general in the science and technology area. And what we see around many countries, particularly our member countries, is that there are not enough people going into the sciences and technology, women or men, and we need to address that. And the best way to address that is to start with these young people who are 14, 15, 16 years old, as they're deciding their future paths, to encourage them to take the kinds of courses and take the path that makes it possible for them to become scientists and engineers, because we need them around the world. And countries need these trained people in order to build the kinds of infrastructure and energy systems and other areas that we're going to need in the future, because the future needs these technologies. So we need these people. So now we are doing this in Kenya because we have formed a relationship with Kenya by way of the International Framework of Nuclear Energy Cooperation. And we met engineer Colin Juma and decided to do this. And I am very happy that we did. And I'll note that this is the first time that we've done any major activity in Africa since I've been Director General. And so it's extremely gratifying, very satisfying, and I look forward to doing more things like this in the future.
The country, sir, plans to launch its maiden nuclear power plant by year 2027. There has been disquiet, let's face it, within some quarters in the country, which raise security and environmental concerns. How crucial is the plant, and is there really any cause for alarm, sir, in this case?
Well, I think that every project in every country, I think, has its own unique aspects. And so I don't want to speak too much to the specifics of the Kenyan case, but I will simply say that I am extremely confident that nuclear power plants can be built safely in countries around the world, including countries like Kenya that are emerging into the field and for the first time. We have seen successful programs in countries that have not had nuclear in the past. Obviously, a good example is United Arab Emirates, but also Turkey, Bangladesh. There are others as well where we've made these recent decisions to build nuclear power plants and have conducted it very successfully. Particularly after this mentoring workshop, when we see how bright and interesting the students in Kenya are, I don't have any doubt that there's the capacity by the time that the decision needs to be made to take that step. There are steps that have to be taken before this final decision is made, including establishing a strong independent nuclear safety regulator, assuring that there's enough industrial infrastructure to support a nuclear power plant. And of course, there's also the business and financial side, as well as plans for how you're going to handle the nuclear waste. All these things have to be put in place before a plant can be built. But I don't see any reason why that can't happen safely and effectively in Kenya.
Sir, you're from the outside looking inwards, literally and metaphorically. Are we on the right track as a country in terms of embracing nuclear technology?
Well, I've seen what Kenya has been doing over the years. I have met Kenyans who have been sent overseas to receive training, special training. I met a group of Kenyans once, probably now 8-9 years ago. They were visiting the United States or at Texas A&M University, taking part of a special training course for senior officials. So the process to train people to build the intellectual infrastructure in Kenya has been underway for a long time. And so I think there's been a lot of patience in Kenya. They've taken the steps to build the kinds of capacity that will be necessary to have a safe and effective nuclear program. So what I can see as an outsider, I think the right steps are being taken. There's still more steps to go, of course, but from what I can see, I think it's on a good path. And I'm confident that with people like Collins Juma and others who are in charge of these programs, that the right decisions will be made. And we look forward to seeing how things play out.
There has been talk about small modular reactors in recent months, and actually that talk is fast gaining traction. How big a milestone are SMRs in the technology evolution, especially in the nuclear sector?
Well, it's really one of the most exciting developments in the nuclear sector, really since my career began, because traditional large light water reactors, the kinds of plants that are operating today in the U.S. and Germany and France and Japan, they have been very effective, but they are also very large and very complicated to build. And there's an unfortunate track record of cost overruns and project delays that make these plants very expensive. They don't have to be overly expensive. They don't have to have these schedule problems, but because of the large complexity of these projects, it often does happen. Small modular reactors are a different breed of nuclear. And the idea is that the reactors can be largely built in factory and shipped to the country and the location where they will be operated. That way you avoid the complexity of these large projects to build a plant from the ground up around the world, where we have seen these problems. Instead, it's more like buying, an airline aircraft or a train or some other large piece of complicated equipment. You can simply put on a ship and move it to the country that bought it and install it. That's a whole new way of building nuclear power plants. That has a lot of people around the world excited. In addition to the advantages in terms of the project and construction of the plant, small modular reactors are typically a step change more safe and easier to operate than existing nuclear power plants. So we think that these are real game changers, that in terms of cost effectiveness, project reliability, nuclear safety, operations, flexibility, that these new technologies will make nuclear highly competitive with really everything else that's out there, and that there will not be the concern for these large cost overruns we've seen in nuclear power plant projects in countries like the US and France and Finland in recent years. So we're very excited by SMRs. We're waiting to see how all this plays out. The first SMRs are now reaching regulatory approval in places like the US and UK and Canada. And there's going to be a lot of choices out there, and probably very soon, within the next 5 to 10 years.
Finally, sir, you have partnered with NAIR as the Nuclear Energy Agency in this mentorship program. Maybe are there other programs in the works?
I guess we'll see. We're really just getting started with our relationship with Kenya. Kenya is not one of our member countries. Our member countries are 34 countries that typically have very, very deep experience. So we're not an organization that works very much with emerging countries. But there are some exceptions, and I think that Kenya might be one of those exceptions where we start to build a relationship. And so we'll see where it takes us. This mentoring workshop was an excellent start to the relationship. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to come to Kenya myself to talk with senior officials, to talk about where we might be able to support and help their aspirations, and perhaps we could start having Kenyan experts come to some of our technical meetings so they can learn from the best around the world. So we look forward to working with Kenya, just as we do today with countries like India and China, Brazil, who are not members of the NEA, but with whom we work quite well. So hopefully Kenya will be the first of our partners to come from Africa. That would be truly rewarding.
Thank you so much for your time, or should I say merci? I know you're in France. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
On that, no country is an island on its own note. We take a short break, but don't switch that dial, because when we come back, we travel all the way to the North Rift town of Eldoret, where we interact with another queen in the nuclear sector. Then we tell you on why you need to be more cautious of your electronic gadget than a nuclear power plant. And later, we take a look at another award-winning essay written by our learners. Then finally, in our IAEA video of the day, we tell you what you need to know about measuring radiation.